president of the bank this year, Gary Jungermann from the Kingdom of Callaway County. Thank you so much for the time. And we are here with Steve Hobbs, the executive director of the association, former state legislator and former county official. Thank you for having us here.
I'm in this 3-step program, and I'm home with my family at the Missouri Association of Accountants.
Love it. And we're here with State Senator Jamie Berger, also a former commissioner. Senator, thank you for joining us.
So good to be here, Scott. Thank you for having me today.
Steve, give me the breakdown. What is the state of the county government today?
I think we're in a transition period in county government. It's been happening over the years, but COVID had a profound effect on our counties in the way we do business and in the ways that we were asked to serve the needs of our citizens. It became very apparent. We had great trust with Governor Parson in sending resources to the counties because he knew we could handle and get the services out to people that were needed. And now as we are coming out of that period and moving into what we call normal business, we're seeing more and more turnover in our county elected offices. People are not staying for 40 years like Herman Kelly from Shannon County. They're staying for 4 or 8 years, and then they're moving on to something else. Because county elected officials are having more and more asked of them with less and less resources, and these jobs are just difficult, and people do it because they love it and they want to serve their community. And so we have a lot of different issues that we're dealing with, and mainly it all comes down to communicating with our constituents.
Tell me, there has been an issue that's been talked about a ton in county government and some in state government. There is some property tax issues that are starting to really hit home with the counties.
Well, that's probably the next session's better, but since COVID, I don't know if it's a timeline or an excuse on why things are these, but it seems like, yes, we're battling with the state legislature as far as taxes. It's always, it goes back to what was said earlier. They think counties are rich and they have all kinds of money, and they keep wanting to play with our revenue streams, to some extent. So, and we could go into the unfunded mandate portion too as we move forward with stuff. But yes, personal property taxes being talked about a lot, and what's going to happen there. And we've had numerous discussions over the past 12 months probably at the state, and we're just going to see how this all works out, because at the end of the day, unlike Jamie, he made a comment earlier that no one likes to see their tax bill come this time of year. But we also know that's what it's going to take for us to do the things that we do in local government and provide those services.
Senator, take folks into the decision-making room. I mean, there's a bill, services cost money, they just do. If we're to be adults, you have to take that into account. What are state policymakers dealing with that results in some of these bills that have been passed?
I think a lot of times we don't hear enough initially from the people back home. We're having these debates back and forth, and it's a long way for a lot of you to come to the Capitol to talk about issues. I think it's so important that we see the face of Pete Frazier from Cade County into the building. I think it's important that we see people from Iron County and Atchison counties. When we talk about those things, I think you have to have a relationship with your senator and representative and tell them actually and show them on a piece of paper what kind of impact it's going to have on your county proprietary-wise. There's so many things that we deal with, like something was said earlier, that Steve had said, what works in one county doesn't work in every county. You need to make sure that you get across to your person what is happening, what this effect will have on your county. So many times in the Senate, with the filibuster, my patience level sometimes is not the best, believe me. And we sit there and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, someone comes up with a great idea, and I think if you come up with a great idea at 2 o'clock in the morning, why wasn't a great idea at 4 o'clock this afternoon? But we need to hear from you guys. We really, really do. You know, I always said when I first got to the Capitol, the most impressive thing that I saw on Wednesday, I saw these big belt buckles and cowboy hats in the building, and you knew the cattlemen were there. And they stopped by my office every Wednesday, and I always tell them, hey guys, I'm with you, and you don't have to stop by here if you don't have time. Everyone will stop by here every Wednesday, so they're there every Wednesday. I think with county government, sometimes we just kind of think that our state legislators are going to vote with us. You know, a lot of times I'll get a phone call the day after we vote, and they'll say, Jamie, why did you vote that way? And I said, why did you call me yesterday? You know, and let me know what was going on. But we need to hear from you, and I think that's what drives a lot of the issues.
Steve, take me through, there's been some fights that have ended up with county governments taking the bill for things the state should pay for, or mandates to pay for new things. What is the next level of fights look like? What's on the horizon going forward? And what can county government officials do to hold the line for them?
So I think we're seeing a trend in the Missouri General Assembly where legislation is crafted and they automatically say on the floor that it's likely unconstitutional, but we're going to let the courts decide that. And I think we're seeing more and more of our counties saying, you're not leaving us any avenue except litigation to solve those problems. If you look at Iron County, I see Jim sitting there. They're in a lawsuit right now because of the manufacturer's tax that was tagged on to the Wayfair bill that we largely supported. But when that went into effect, that greatly harmed a group of counties that rely heavily on manufacturing. And to add to that, those counties had gone to their voters and asked for bonding authority on that. So it's not like it's a funding stream that's going away. They're still left holding the bill for the debt. We see Senate Bill 3 that was passed, and that's something that happened in the middle of the night with no committee hearing.
Tell folks at home what that is.
Senate Bill 3 is a stadium bill called into special session. And to get the votes for that, there were deals cut in the Senate. And I have talked to very few senators who were happy with anything that was done that night. That might have been the angriest I've ever seen you in my life, sir. And there was a decision made where each senator got to pick what their district would be, either a held harmless or a 5% or a frozen county. And when it went up for debate and it introduced at 11:30 at night and done by a little after midnight, there wasn't a handful of people left in the building. Trent Watson was there, though. Anyway, now we've got school districts that are looking to sue over disability services. You've got school districts in this state that might be in all, that the district covers 3 county lines that are in all 3. What a nightmare to try and figure out that deduction for them. And then we've got the other problem that we talked about yesterday a little bit that we're going to have to discuss further here. The county clerks and the commissions are going to have a decision to make here in January. The mandate was that you put that on the ballot for the April election. That has to be done in January. What's, Sherry, the 27th of January? We need to look at a restraining order to go to the courts as counties to say, wait, this is being litigated in the courts, and yet you want us to put it on the ballot. It could be kicked out in the courts, and it's already passed in your county, and then you've got to go back to the voters and say, well, no, we really didn't mean that. So I think litigation is becoming more and more prevalent, and it's a shame. These things could be worked out ahead of time. We're not getting that opportunity.
Gary. As the president, man, I do think people, when you go through the leadership team of MAC, legislators get accustomed to seeing you. They get accustomed to seeing Steve. They see Trent all the time. Talk about the importance it is for actual county elected officials to be in that capital when those decisions are made.
You know, we had some concerns. Some of the locally elected had some concerns with that this year. But I will tell you that I've been in office for now 15 years, and it all does come down to relationship building and being up there. There are certain sectors of local government that spend some time at the capture, and others of us that don't spend as much. And it was said a while ago, I know there's a distance here, but I know this. I know that in order to do things and have things happen at the state legislature, you have to communicate frequently, make those phone calls. I think yesterday it was talked about here at the conference, you know, that when they're off and they're home, communicate with them, build them relationships, ask the questions. And I think that's what we have to do, but building those relationships, because I didn't walk in there day one, you know, back in 2011 and 12, and just automatically have a lot of respect when I walk down the hallway. But when you're there enough, and you walk down the hallway, and even, you know, the senators and the reps, and even the governor at times now that walks the hall a little more often than usual, and you walk down through there, and they look at you and say, "How you doing, Commissioner?" Even if we don't stop and talk, we relate to each other, we communicate. So it is a big deal, and I know there's a number of people out there that spend some time up there. But my thing is you have to spend, and it's going to get to the point where you're going to have to spend more and more time, and that's what's going to make these jobs difficult.
Because you're in the Irish. I mean, some of the things that have been mentioned in this conference that folks don't like in county government, that's not over. It's not like you can just be mad about what happened. There's more to come if you don't get engaged.
That is correct. And it just, you know, sometimes you're force-fed with a spoon up there too, that you're kind of stuck in a spot, and there's not a lot of negotiating to be done. But I think some of the reason for that is we're not up there present. We have to be up there as larger groups. And I know the commissioners have been trying in the last couple of years, and we're doing a better job, but we need to even do a better job of doing it.
Senator, I think there's a lot of things in rural Missouri. When I think of Mac, I guess maybe it's because I'm from Butler County, I think of more rural counties and a voice that has a lot of rural members in it. You know, from rural broadband, there aren't things going well for rural. One is rural broadband, and two, there's some opportunities in the energy space that might be more uniquely advantageous to rural counties than urban counties. These are things that could fund a lot of the services that we're discussing today.
You know, we've had several discussions in our district about data centers. They're coming, no doubt. And we're welcoming them into our counties for sure. I think, you know, kind of what Scott said, we have the ability, we have the water, we have the resources, we have the energy. We just need to make sure Ameren and Evergy and the groups can supply the energy to these data centers. That would fund our schools. That will fund give us some relief to our residents too that are paying taxes. And they are coming, no doubt, to Southeast Missouri or wherever else they may be. And I think we need to welcome those. You know, there's so many, maybe Class 1 counties that are strongly against it. Maybe they don't have the areas to put them in. I don't know how that works in the Class 1 counties for sure. I know Cade County would welcome that. But we'll continue to look at that and explore those options as we move forward.
There are some things. I mean, rural Missouri seems like every innovation since the cotton drove people off the farms to the city. We're finally seeing some things from the rural broadband and maybe some of these energy projects, like a data center, that you can actually bring folks home and actually invest in the infrastructure in the county.
You know, that's one of the reasons later today in a breakout session, we're having our friends from the rural electric cooperatives come and talk to us about the future of energy in Missouri. We've long enjoyed low electricity costs as citizens here in Missouri. I think that's one of the fears of crypto mining and data centers, along with the noise, is the energy usage, and how is that going to affect your constituents when they get their bill every month. And so I think this has to be part of a holistic process. If we bring economic development to the state, first of all, are we going to abate what revenues they bring in to attract them? Which abatements are one of the largest things that we deal with in property tax, because our economic development policies in the state of Missouri are on abating taxes in one form or another, either at the state or the local level. And then how is it going to affect our constituents?
Senator, Steve, Gary, thank you so much for having us. We sure appreciate it. We're going to be right back with another panel of county and local elected officials, including Alan Icet, after this.
St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
You know, Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Missouri's childcare crisis is hurting our children, families, and even our economy. Currently, 78 Missouri counties are designated as childcare deserts, where the number of kids needing childcare exceeds the number of available options. Today, some Missouri families are spending more on childcare than housing, and Missouri's childcare shortage costs our economy $1.35 billion every year. Missouri families and businesses deserve better. Learn more at mochampionofchildren.com.
We have a severe weather alert to report here. The storm is also bringing the threat of damaging winds and large hail.
Here's the thing. When storms bear down, we step up.
Ready again?
You bet. Our teams are always ready to keep your power strong. Ameren.com/poweron.
Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe proposing a plan to get rid of the state income tax.
He made a promise.
Eliminating income taxes was actually one of the pillars of Kehoe's campaign for governor.
Now, he's going to deliver.
Governor Mike Kehoe tells me he's ready to move on a plan that would eliminate Missouri's income tax.
Missourians work very hard. They can spend their money better than any elected official can.
Call Governor Kehoe and thank him for keeping his promise.
Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics. We are here at the Missouri Association of Counties Conference in Lake of the Ozarks. Thank you all so much for having us. It's been fun. We are now joined by Daniel Franks in Howell County, the home of Porter Wagner. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Carol Johnson, Public Administrator in Dallas County, right?
Correct.
Proud home of Senator Crawford, right?
Absolutely.
And Alan Icet, a name I think everybody will know from Greene County. Alan, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Let's talk about, pick up on something we talked about last segment. Some of the Senate Bill 3 things, Alan. You've been in both of these worlds. You've been in the state legislative world and you've been in the county world. You know a lot about that state budget. It does feel to me like the legislature's cut taxes about as much as you can before you have serious cuts. And they're pushing some of those costs onto the county.
Right, and that, as you can imagine, cutting taxes anywhere is very popular with the citizenry, the electorate. And I was at a meeting 2 years ago here, chairing the Senate Bill 190 task force, and there's some pushback from some of the people in the room. Why don't we just overturn this? I said, you do understand that of 163 state reps, almost everyone voted for it. In the 34 state senators, I think there was one dissenting vote. No one in the political realm, in my opinion, in their right mind, would publicly oppose this. This is a very popular idea. So as we see what's going on in Jeff City, more ideas about cut this, cut that. At some point in time, something needs to either change or stop because we do have to fund both local and state government.
You know, Mr. Franks, it is an interesting thing. I hear these conversations with Jeff City. When you're in local government, you have to actually provide the service. Sometimes it's the state level, there's so much money and it's a little removed, it's almost theoretical. There's nothing theoretical about how county government and service you provide citizens. Is there a way to more effectively communicate to the legislature that, yes, it's nice that you want to cut taxes and shove the bills off on the county, but at some point, there's going to be somebody in the house and the ambulance doesn't pick up because of that?
I think if one message we could get across to them, stop, think, call the experts back home, because at every county courthouse, there's an expert on the subject they're talking about, and they rarely contact us. They need to reach out because we're busy doing the work, providing those services back home. We don't have time to follow what they're doing up there, and a lot of times, that bill has already been thought of 6-7 months before.
Do you think there's going to have to be a change, though, in just because of the practical way it is, that instead of you thinking they should call you, you're going to call them?
We do call them, and they don't listen.
Is that right?
face-to-face and explain, this is the way the assessment process works, the property tax process works. I've been doing this for 35 years now, and I've had multiple ones of those tell me, I don't know what I'm doing.
I knew when you walked in with that hat, you'd have the line of the day. Talk to me, we talk about some of the exciting things, and we'll get to some of the exciting parts of rural Missouri and some of the opportunities. But, there's an infrastructure that has to be in place. And health and mental health, which are, more and more the same thing, are something I think rural Missouri is lacking. If we're going to have folks come back home and get to live the life they want to live in a place they grew up, you have to have health care.
Absolutely. And we are short of providers. Our mental health services are non-existent in most counties, the rural counties, and what there is, it's telemedicine. Well, you can't have somebody who's schizophrenic talking to a television. That's just not going to work. Our jails have become mental health facilities because there's just no place to put these folks. And then we get dumped on as public administrators with, we're supposed to have the answer to everything, and we don't.
Is there an economic argument? I always thought when you have folks in jail, a lot of times it's the same folks.
Absolutely.
You address that mental health issue while they're in jail, they pretty much don't have anything else to do that day, except maybe exception treatment. It feels like economically, that's a good policy for the state.
That would be a good start. Prevention before that would even be better. But if they're in there, they should get treatment, but they can't. There's no providers to do that. There are a few facilities that are working towards that, but they're larger, have much more resources than just food and water.
Just to go back to this point, you've been a legislator, you've written the state budget. I mean, that's an all-encompassing job. You don't have time to say grace over anything but that almost. You've been a county elected official, you have a job and staff and things to do. How do you split that divide in doing your job at the county and also making sure you're in front of state policymakers so they don't inhibit your ability to do that job?
It's a balancing act. As Daniel said, too often state legislators get this great idea, and there may be some value and some merit to the idea, and they move forward, impacting the county officials, but they don't bother to call. And I know for Senate Bill 190, a number of us were very involved in that and took trips to Jesse and say, hey, wait, time out, can you make these changes? And for the most part, got stiff-armed by the legislature. So I think it's important, as we discussed, for us as county officials to continue to build bridges with our state elected officials, because politics, as you well know, is personal. It's that personal relationship that has to be established before we need to intervene and have their ear. So it's a day-to-day thing. You can visit Jeff City or just reach out to your local state rep or state senator.
I've seen, and our newspaper's written stories about the state tax commission has been firing off some letters. What is the crux of that argument? What is the road?
Well, let's go back to COVID.
All right.
When
I hate to, but all right.
Me too. So paying all of us want to pass. When COVID came about, our state had already been discovered by a lot of people, but we became super discovered. During that time, we saw property values escalate at a rate nobody had ever seen, along with building material costs. The price of homes escalated at a rate 28% greater than the annual CPI. So greater than inflation, 28%, and we reassess every other year by statute. So when I did my study after looking at 22, 23, I did my study. My study showed that I was about 53% low in value. There's no way to make that up in 1 year and not severely harm the citizenry. There's no way. State law says if we increase more than 15%, we have to do a physical inspection. So those things are why the State Tax Commission sent out those MOUs. That's what they say. There again, lack of communication, lack of knowledge, and lack of having good things put in place. Our property tax system was done very well through reassessment. They did the books in 1985. The legislature spent 4 years working on it from 1980 through 1984. But since 1985, we've had a continual degradation. We've not moved forward, we've not advanced systems, we've not advanced technology. We need to get current.
So that's the solution. Legislature needs to get involved and re-update to take into account for COVID.
Well, I don't know that the legislature needs to be that involved until we need them to. There's a lot of discussion that's going to happen. And the biggest thing they can do is just say, we need to put the brakes on. Let's give it a couple of years. Let's get a moratorium in here. Let's get some things fixed. Well, let's sit down and work to truly fixing this for the citizens of the state. Because that's who's losing the war.
Yeah. Ms. Johnson, we talked about healthcare. Everything costs money. I mean, it's nice to kind of live in a world where you can cut, but in reality, services cost money. There has been in the last probably 12 months, maybe a little longer, these energy projects, these data centers that are starting to come to rural Missouri. It feels like maybe we have some reason for optimism now about economic development. Because frankly, it is cheaper to go buy a tract of land in Dallas County than it is Greene County. The property tax rules, we finally have some of these things to offer that might lead to paying for some of the services.
Well, I believe that the money is in the Department of Mental Health, and we need to reevaluate what are they doing with the money. And that's, the focus that we need to look at. They have funds that they spend on our DD clients that are outrageous, but when we have someone who just has mental health issues, there's no services available. Go see a counselor. Well, that's not enough. They need routine inpatient services. We have no beds to place our forensic folks. They're sitting in jails for months on end. Yes, money is great. We would love more, but I think money is there. We just need to follow the money and see where it's going.
You wrap up the show every week with who won the week. Give me somebody that won the week.
I have to give a shout out to my collectors. As I say, November and December for us, it's showtime. I like that. Some have had a real challenge getting Senate 190 implemented, but they're still working and doing a great job, again, to help bring in taxes, to help really the whole county survive and thrive.
Johnson, you won the week.
The public administrators, of course.
Sir, who won the week?
I'm going to go away from my association. They won't kill me. I think the citizens of the state won the week because of all these folks sitting out here representing their counties.
I agree with that. It has been an absolute honor to be here. Thank you so much for having us here at the Missouri Association of Counties Conference. I'm going to end the week with saying Jamie Berger's Chief of Staff Heather McNally won the week, as she should every week. Hope you'll win the week next week by joining us here on This Week in Missouri Politics with United States Senator Eric Schmidt.
This Week in Missouri Politics is brought to you by the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, Ameren, Spire, Evergy, and the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts.